You know how to lead. You know how to perform under pressure. You know how to hold it all together and succeed in any room. But beneath the titles, the planning, the polished exterior, you're tired. You're craving something that you cannot schedule, something that you don't need to earn. And yet, without a partner or someone to lean on, softness feels out of reach. I'm not a foreigner to being on overdrive and operating from my masculine energy. For years, I was the strong one. I'm a producer, a provider, an immigrant single parent in one of the most expensive cities in the world, New York City. I was navigating life in the most structured and masculine way until I burned out. I had anxieties, panic attacks. That was 13 years ago. And to heal, I didn't need another strategy. My nervous system needed to be in safety. I needed to learn how to heal my nervous system. I needed softness. I needed my feminine energy back. It was 13 years ago, and since then, I've been devoted to embodying everything I'm sharing with you on this channel. So where that ability to drop into the feminine, to receive, to rest, to trust comes from. That starts in our bodies, not in our minds, not in our vision boards, not in our to-do lists, but it starts in our body. Also, our nervous system relaxes and drops into our feminine when we are in the presence of healthy masculine energy that serves as a container for us to drop into safety and into our feminine energy and to relax. So the healthy masculine energy, I did another separate video on that. You can go and check on the traits and the differences between healthy masculine energy and wounded masculine energy. But healthy masculine energy is the structure, the protection, the decisiveness. And so when we are around that, as women, our nervous system relaxes. We soften, we exhale. What happens when you're in the presence of a wounded masculine energy? I'm sure a lot of you have been in the opposite relationship with wounded masculine energy. I know I have. My last relationship was like that. And what do you feel when you are in the presence of men like that? If he's inconsistent, critical, unavailable, or emotionally unstable, your nervous system is braced for a fight, waiting for the other shoe to drop, always anxious. And you're on your toes, you're on an edge, you're staying on an edge. You cannot feel safe and relaxed around that person. And sometimes you don't know why, but we operate on such an energetic level that we communicate energetically. So if you're in the presence of a man like that, of course, you're not going to feel safe as a woman. And of course, you're not going to feel safe to let go, to be who you are, to be in your feminine, to be sensitive, emotional at times. You will have the need to control. You'll start operating from your masculine. When we're single, we don't have that container of protection and we cannot drop into our feminine and be safe and just receive and attract. And so when we think that way, a lot has to do with external circumstances, right? Having the right men, having a support system, but that sometimes is not possible. So what we need to do is learn to give those things ourselves. Learn to work with our nervous system to feel this way without needing a man, not because we don't want a man, but because we want to feel safe and in our feminine energy so we can attract a masculine man. But for us to do that and drop into our feminine, we have to learn to give ourselves those things that a masculine man will give to us. We have to be in a full receptivity and surrender. We can create that internal safety. We can learn to lead ourselves gently. We can soften without losing our edge at work. And one of my favorite books is by Wayne Dyer, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. I think that's the title. I read it in Bulgarian. But he writes how water is the ultimate metaphor of feminine power. Why? Because it's not structured, rigid, or masculine qualities. It's fluid, it flows, but it's so powerful. It can break houses, roads, it can break anything. Water doesn't force, it flows. It moves around resistance. It carves through stone with grace and time. You might not feel fully safe right now, but you can start practicing flexibility. You can begin choosing softness over being rigid, even in small moments. Even when you're in an argument with a friend or someone disagrees with you. So I was at a board meeting yesterday in our building, and there were some women, some men. Two of the men started arguing, and one of the women, she started chiming in, and the argument went on and on. And I got up and said, "Thank you for your time. I really have to run." And I left. I was not triggered by the argument, but I left because it was such a nonsense. And this woman chiming in, it made it even worse. And the worst part was the argument was not even about anything specific. It was such an ego-driven argument between two men. And if she just held herself back and not said anything and went into her softness and not rigidity, the argument would have died down. This is being in your masculine, ready to fight with the armor, and it's just like in a war. But you can practice softness. You can put boundaries with softness. You might not be able to go with the flow all day long, but you can choose few sacred moments to reconnect with your softness. You can find 5 minutes for yourself to move, to dance, to sway, to stretch, not to perform, but just to feel. And believe me, as a single parent with a full-time job and a business, if I can do it, you can do it too. Time, it's exactly the same for everyone. And we don't find time. We make time. I used to go on my lunch break in the garage of the building where we used to work in my car and just meditate for 5 minutes and sit with my thoughts. If you're in a high-pressure meeting, choose to lead with presence. Soften your tone. Listen deeply. Let your words lead with intention. Instead of talking and explaining and complaining, and choose your words wisely. Say few things with intention. I love the saying, don't explain, don't complain. If structure runs all of your day, let creativity shape your evening. So in the evening, you can cook slowly, rearrange flowers, scribble some poetry, or sketch. I love sketching. I cannot draw a figure, even a stick figure, but I love sketching just with lines and dots, and it just relaxes me. Or I color books, or I do crossword puzzles. I just let my mind flow. Creativity is the seed of femininity. So being creative, it's extremely important if you want to be in your feminine energy. Find a hobby that speaks to your soul. Would that be arranging flowers? Would it be dance class? Whatever it is, you don't even have to leave the house. But one non-negotiable I had is after work. I used to work from 8 to 4, and I was at home by 4:30. I used to pick up my son from after school at 5 p.m. So that 30 minutes for me were non-negotiable. I would not pick up the phone if there's fire. I don't care. This was my time. Everything else could have waited. So what I did was I'll come home, dim the lights, light some candles, switch off my phone, play some music, gentle music, piano or violin, or high vibration, 539 frequency, read a magazine. I'll just flip through. I was not even reading. I didn't have the capacity. I was burned out from all day. And I just needed that shift before I pick up my son and I start the mom duty as a single parent, cooking, cleaning, playing with him, doing homeworks, bedtime. And by the time it was bedtime, I was drained. So this was my sacred time. Find what is for yourself. Here's something that can quickly relax you. Sit with your feet on the floor. One hand on your heart, one on your womb. The womb is the representation of the feminine energy. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6, and whisper. It's safe to soften. I move like water. Ask yourself, what would I choose if I was aligned in my feminine? This is not about disconnecting from our ambition. It's about letting our essence lead before our next strategy does. Here's some journaling prompts. Where can you choose flexibility instead of rigidity this week? What creative expression feels safe, even if it's just 5 minutes a day? Here's a mantra for you. I lead with grace and not grind. I don't force, I flow. I create safety within me and I soften into truly who I am. You're not always going to feel safe, but you don't have to wait for a man or a title or a perfect moment to come back to yourself. You can choose to feel safe. And from that place, you are going to become magnetic and attract and manifest everything that you used to chase. If this message resonated with you, I truly appreciate if you comment below, subscribe, and share the message. And don't forget that the most important relationship we have is the one we have with ourselves. So nurture that relationship before everything else. I'll see you next time.